Hi, everybody. We hope you're doing well. And November is Canada Career Month. So happy Canada Career Month to everybody here. My name is Candy Ho, and I'm currently the Assistant Professor for Integrative Career and Capstone Learning at the University of the Fraser Valley. And I'll start by acknowledging that at UFV, we're fortunate to be studying and working in the territory of the Solo Nation and its people, and that where I'm currently situated in Burnaby Mountain, I'm situated in the territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I'm grateful here to be here as an immigrant and a settler, and at the same time, I also want to recognize that these opportunities have not been given to the Indigenous people in this land. So to get us started, I wanted to first invite everybody, should you choose, to think about what it means to be on this land, what that means to you personally, and if you'd like to also use in the chat option where you're coming from and where you're joining us today. Okay. So we'll take a few moments to do that. But while we're doing that, I also wanted to welcome the wonderful panelists that we have here today and contextualize the panel that we're about to learn from. So in my current role, I teach career development courses that help students think about their educational and life experiences and consider, what are some of the attributes, skills, and knowledge? We call them ASK. So ask, what have they developed? What have they continued to develop that would be relevant to their future aspirations, wherever they want to go? So be it, work, landing on full-time employment, finding graduate and professional schools, or even running their own business ventures. So whatever they choose, how are their attributes, their skills, and their knowledge that they're bringing that's going to be relevant for them. Employers, of course, are an important part of this equation because the panelists here, they're about to share their insights on, they hire their work with our students and graduates as well. So we are thrilled to have such wonderful speakers today that are coming from the private, public, and not-for-profit sectors joining us for this conversation today. So thank you in advance. And then to this point, I'm going to invite Holly Jansen, our superstar student from the Global Development Studies program, to introduce herself as the moderator of the panel and the Q&A. Thank you, Holly, and welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Holly Jansen, and I am currently in my 4th year of the Global Development Studies program. It's an honor to be moderating this event for a 2nd year in a row, and I appreciate you having me. To start off this discussion, I am going to ask each panelist to please introduce yourself, your role and organization, and from your perspective, the most critical transferable skill in your new hires. And why is the transferable skill important in your organization or industry context? Is there anyone that would like to start us off? Hannah, I see you're unmuted.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Park. I'm the manager of human resources at the city of Abbotsford. This is a really tough question because it was really hard to pick one, but if I could frame it as I give thought, I would really say it's self-awareness, which I would define as that conscious knowledge of your motives, your character, your feelings and desires. And, it's an element of emotional intelligence, but it encompasses a little bit more. And, this is a key leadership skill, and it's very valued in our organization because not knowing your values, your personality, your needs and habits really talks about your fit with being successful in the role. And if that's a job that actually people enjoy doing and that energizes and how they're engaged. And we also value this self-awareness, not just in leadership roles where there's a formal title of leadership, because we also find there's informal leaderships and we assess candidates on how they demonstrate this role in any position that they have. And so it's an opportunity also to grow and learn in your self-awareness. And so this is something that we also support in our training and development program with staff at all levels.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. Is there anyone that would like to go next? Andrew, how about you?
Perfect. Thanks so much, Holly. My name is Andrew. I'm here with the Fraser Valley Bandits. Honored to meet everyone. And I think for us, one of the most transferable skills that we look for is taking agency and problem solving. It's something where we really encourage everyone to have a voice in our organization and to be confident. And it's something where we are a little bit of a startup culture as an organization. We're heading into year 4 of 5, and there's a lot of businesses that are growing here in the Fraser Valley. And we love when people come into our organization and they have an opportunity to have their voice be heard and to come up with ideas and to pitch ideas where a lot of times with the growing organization, problems and challenges do arise, and we want to give people an opportunity to solve those independently and to feel confident in the approachability to come forward to their superiors and their supervisors, where they feel it's a two-way street of communication, where they're confident enough to pitch their ideas, and where it's a process of they recognize a challenge, they address it, and then they propose a potential solution. And that's something where we really hope to nurture that process, and it's something what we really look for in new hires.
Thanks, Andrew. Laura, would you like to go next?
Sure, yeah. First, I have to unmute myself, evidently. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Schneider. I'm the Executive Director at the Reach Gallery Museum, which is located in Stalo-Timucua, which is the unceded and sovereign territory of the Stalo people. We're a nonprofit organization. We are board-led and registered charity as well. So we occupy the third sector. You know, this is a sector that's growing in our community, and we certainly provide a lot of crucial skills and our crucial services and amenities to communities. The Reach Gallery Museum is a museum, an archive, and a contemporary art gallery. I certainly agree with the previous two speakers in terms of their skills, and it's really difficult to identify a transferable skill amongst many. I would say, and certainly during COVID, one of the things that's really stood out to me with the staff here is as a crucial skill is the ability to remain flexible and adaptable, and that's really down to resilience. So with or without a pandemic, I think this is really important in the nonprofit sector and in every sector. Our circumstances change frequently. Our timelines vary. You know, we can be working on a 2-year project timeline and then get news that we've had an excellent windfall in terms of funding opportunities, and we have to be able to scale up our projects really quickly. We can also have really short turnarounds for need in our community. Only yesterday, we had a group of seniors come in asking for a tour, and one of our former UFV grads actually stepped up to the plate and was able to take that on very quickly, although that was the first tour she's ever given. So that ability to be resilient and to adapt quickly is absolutely essential in the nonprofit sector.
Thank you, Laura. Lori, would you like to go next?
Yes, I was just about to unmute my microphone, so there we go. Good timing. Thank you. Like Laura, I'm Laree Mann, and I represent Archway Community Services, which is a nonprofit, multi-service, multi-funded, community-based services agency, also a registered charity, and we provide a lot of support to people in the community. We have over 90 programs that we offer to people in need, newcomers to Canada, people needing to learn English, to get involved in the community and to help out. We have the food bank. We have many, many programs that you are probably aware of. And if you're not aware of, I would highly recommend that you go to our website and have a look at them. But we have over 400 employees, over 1,000 volunteers, and we have 24 locations in Abbotsford, Chilliwack, Mission, Langley, and in Chandigarh, India. So we are very, very involved with the communities, both here in the Fraser Valley and in India as well, to help people coming into Canada. When you asked that question about the transferable skills, like Hannah, at the very beginning, I thought, my goodness, trying to choose just one, that's very difficult. And Laura said the same thing. So I'm going to be a little sneaky here. I'm going to say, for us, because of Archway and our vision, we really are, it's so important for new hires to have that inclusivity, compassion, and excellence, because they are so much a part and parcel of what we do here at Archway. So that inclusivity, we want to make sure that everybody is being recognized, that they feel that they belong, that they have a say, that that we are respecting their intrinsic worth, no matter who they are, whether they're colleagues or clients. We also have that compassion. A lot of people are coming here that have experienced trauma, that have gone through difficult times in their lives. So we want to make sure that we have that empathy for them, and also for excellence, because we are always striving to improve. We love it when people come up with some great ideas. So that continued need to improve, go on training, take courses, come up with ideas. All of those are very, very important skills that we really do want to have the new hires have when they join Archway. So that's it for me for that part.
That's great. Thank you, Lori. Mike, would you like to go next?
Hey everyone, my name is Mike Corman. I'm a sociology professor at the University of the Fraser Valley. I teach a variety of courses: health and illness, aging, conspiracy and culture, pandemics and disasters, the family, qualitative methods, etc. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this today. I mean, I think this question is also very, very tough because we do have to choose, as Lori mentioned, just one of these. But the first thing that comes to my mind that I think essentially underpins a lot of what's been discussed already is this notion of critical thinking, the ability to be able to think in ways that are informed systematically, that are informed by theory, that allows us to look at things in nuanced, complex, and challenging ways, that challenges the normative. When I think about critical thinking, I think about being able to be compassionate. I think about resiliency and empathy, and to be flexible and adaptable. And so really, you know, as a sociologist, as somebody who teaches in the Faculty of Arts, you know, I think one of these really important skills that really, you know, are throughout a variety of different leadership skills is this notion of critical thinking.
Thank you. And last but not least, Constable Boonstra.
Hi there, thanks so much for having me. My name is Constable Boonstra. I'm the recruiter for the Abbotsford Police Department. And as many of you know, with Surrey now going up, we are very, very, very busy in recruiting. So happy to be here. This is, again, a very hard question. I think all the transferable skills that everyone has mentioned all fall under the umbrella of policing. But if I was to just give one, and I'll give two sort of interchangeably, would be teamwork and leadership. Those are two qualities that we need for police officers to have. And it's important that you can work as a team, obviously, because we do work in large teams, but it's also important that you can take the lead when you need to be driving a file or be involved in a community event and that sort of thing. So we do look for those skills interchangeably when we're first looking at recruits and new hires. Thank you.
So much. It sounds like we have a great variety of experience here, and I'm looking forward. So the first question that we have is, how transferable skills, new applications, conduct and evaluate new employees during the probationary period. So Hannah, would you like to start us with this one?
Sure. Part of our recruitment process, we have obviously your standard processes with interviews, but we also conduct pre-employment assessments prior to the hire and the offer. And this is really to provide us with an initial behavioral profile of our candidates, and it details an individual's strengths, limitations, their communication style, what motivates them again. And this is along the lines of understanding how they behave under pressure, what are their fears, right? And so I really wanted to clarify, though, that this is not used so much to screen candidates out to better understand and probe in the interview. And so, if there's a job and it's matched against a behavioral profile of a job, so if the job requires a very aggressive, more stern, or I guess dominant role, and the person is timid, it doesn't mean that we won't consider you for an interview. What that means is we're going to ask you, are you aware of this? And how do you plan around when you're going into a meeting where you need to be more assertive, or in situations that require greater this skill to be emphasized. And so when candidates are able to demonstrate that, that's really important that they understand, and they have supports, or they're aware of their need to flex.
Thank you, Hannah. And we have.
Hi. So I love this question because I'm in the process of making a couple of hires at the moment. So my brain is sort of on this, and I'm really passionate about supporting young emerging professionals in the cultural sector in particular at honing these skills, because applying for work is an art and a science. And the most important thing, I'll go through them sequentially. So when I review applications, the 3 top things I'm looking for are your ability to construct professional correspondence. So your ability to use an appropriate tone, the language that you use, your formatting in an email. So all of these things I think are transferable because you're already learning them at university. And hopefully your professors and instructors are providing some feedback, although it's above and beyond the call of duty, I realize, some feedback about your correspondence skills, or at least addressing this in a syllabus. So there are lots of things that you can be paying attention to right out of the gate. And I'll note that when you hit send, it is the first step of the interview process. So it is not that we're looking at everything, I think, as employers. Including the ability to follow direction. So for example, when you see a posting on Indeed, don't just hit apply. Look really, really carefully at what the employer is looking for in your application. So I always provide specific instructions for this reason, to find out if my candidate can follow directions carefully. So it'll be things like email me directly, include the following as a single PDF, use this subject line. So there are already a few little hoops to jump through there that tell me a lot about your ability to pay attention to detail. And on that note, spell people's names right. Look for typos in cover letters and in your emails. It's basic stuff, but you would be really surprised how many people miss these things. In conducting interviews, good verbal communication is obviously really, really important. There's a lot, verbal and non-verbal. So there's a lot we, I think, can learn about you as employers from the way that you present yourself, even in Zoom. Your preparedness. So I think I can say, with confidence that all of your employers are going to ask you something about their organization. So the research that you do in advance will shine through. Know your stuff. We all have websites, it's easy to learn. Many of us in the nonprofit have strategic plans. Go ahead and read those. So just know who you're applying to and understand why you think it's a good fit. And finally, I'll be quick. In terms of evaluation in the probationary period, I'll circle back to something that Hannah said earlier, which is about self-awareness. So at the end of our probationary period, we do a self-evaluation, because I think for me, it's really helpful to be able to compare what my observations are of new employees with their observations of themselves. So there's a lot to be learned from that process as well. So I'll leave it there. I know there's others who are answering this question.
That's great. Thank you, Laura. And next we have Constable Boonstra.
Thank you. So we accept applications 365 days a year. So we're constantly accepting new applications for police officers, both experienced and new hires. And so upon reviewing the applications that we receive, again, we are looking for police officer type-minded thinking people already right off the hop. And so the details of how you write and what you write is really critical. It tells us that that you're invested, and two, that you've really taken the time to put thought behind everything that you write. So for example, making sure you do address the proper department. We do get applications to the Delta Police Department. We get applications to the Vancouver Police Department, because we know that applicants are applying to a variety of places. However, those things matter. Spelling matters to me, spelling the city right, the department right. And these are things I'm saying because I get them all the time. So making sure that the details of how you apply and your resumes and your cover letters are on point. That tells me a lot about you as a person. Was it a rush job? Because in policing, you can be the best frontline police officer, but if you can't write files, that's a problem. It's a problem because everything we do gets tested in court in a variety of places. And so you have to be able to articulate what you write very clearly. So that's very important to me right off the hop. With respect to conducting the interviews, interviewing is a skill. It is not something you should be rushing into and just saying, I'm going to sell myself, I'm going to be amazing. You've really got to take the time to research interviewing and knowing how to do it. Make sure you practice before you come to us. And like Laura said, ensure you understand the agency or the place that you're applying to. They all do have websites. You can look up any bit of information. It tells me about investment in our agency. Police officers, and good ones, are very competitive for us. We all do fight over the good candidates. So we want to know that you know our vision statement, our mission statement, you know who our chief is, you know who our mayor is. And so again, it comes down to investment for us. With respect to evaluating new employees, like once you've been hired and you go through the JI for your training, you're always being marked, you're always being watched, you're always being graded. And so are you able to take feedback, critical feedback sometimes, to learn and grow? And that's really important too, that we hire people that are able to take criticism when that's necessary. Policing is a very steep learning curve. And so we expect that there's going to be a lot of great things for sure, but there's going to be a lot of learning that comes with that. And are you able to take that feedback, learn from it, and become better? That's really important to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are some really helpful points. So COVID-19 has and will continue to shift the way we approach work and life. What is a transferable skill that is becoming increasingly important in our new normal? Mike, would you like to start us off?
Sure. I mean, I'm not sure if this is a new important transferable skill, but definitely, reading, writing, and analysis are skills that have always been really important. But I think increasingly we're seeing the consequences of such skills not being present. I think about, for example, media literacy, and being able to look through media in ways that allow us to determine, where are these sources coming from, what interests are being presented here, are these conspiratorial in organization or not? So how do we kind of, look at content in ways that kind of connects to my earlier mention of critical thinking, but be able to look at something in ways that allows us to kind of read through the lines, so to speak, and to ensure that what we are reading and writing and analyzing is informed by evidence, informed by science and scientific ways of knowing the world. I also think this connects to the importance of skills that we see transferred into the social sciences, right? Skills that are really instilled in social sciences, whether it's sort of systematic analysis or use of frameworks to be able to look at things in nuanced ways. Advocacy is also sort of key to this discussion. I think about a lot of what I do in terms of teaching and research and writing. Everything that I do is kind of geared towards issues that are kind of interface with equity, diversity, and inclusion, right? Which, we're seeing those fissures more visible now than we have in many decades. Not that they haven't been around, but of course, COVID-19 has brought these out. Holly, you know that very well because you're in the pandemics and disasters class, right? And so, what sort of skill? I don't think there's one skill here. There's a multiplicity of skills that, I at least try and teach my students that they can then transfer over into the everyday, right? And that will definitely benefit them when they enter into a work environment.
Thank you. Lori, would you like to go next?
Yes, and one of the words that Laura had mentioned at the very beginning, and I cannot emphasize it more, is resiliency. Within COVID, we have found that it is so important to be able to bounce back from changes, to be able to shift gears quickly, to be able to change the way that you're doing things, and to have a positive attitude throughout all of this, because COVID has affected the way that we are dealing with things. We're now working more within virtual environments. So the ability to communicate with one another, whether it is face-to-face at times, social distancing, of course, but within that virtual environment and keeping in contact with one another quite frequently on the job so that we don't feel that we're working in isolation. That ability to work autonomously, having that good work ethic is really important as well. You need to be very self-disciplined. That's extremely important, and self-motivated. And we also look at how well people are able to keep calm in the face of pressure or in the face of stress, because some of the clients that we have here at Archway, they've undergone many different traumatic situations. So that ability as well for your own mental health and well-being is extremely important, that you're managing that with the clients that you have. So those kinds of what would you call it, the transferable skills that you have already, that you have experience with working at your university courses or college courses or certificate programs. They're all very transferable to on the job. And this is what we're seeing as the new normal with COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. And Hannah.
Yeah, and I agree with everybody. And if I could just frame it too, I think, I would use the word humanness if that's our skills related to the interpersonal and relational skills. And, our work is becoming more, I feel, human at a quicker rate. And this might seem ironic because of the exponential advances in technology, machine-based learning. But we're finding the real differentiator is our staff and our ability to really express that humanness, and it comes down to being in a service industry or serving the public, delivering excellent customer service, and that comes in the form of imagination, creativity, building trust-based relationships that really can't be done by machines, right? And that also encompasses empathy. And if you look at COVID, it was really a moral test of our time, and like this collective ordeal where we assessed our ability to think about others before ourselves and take action for the greater good. And I would also squeeze resiliency in there through our health, where in our organization, health and safety are synonymous, and COVID has demonstrated that you can't have an engaged and vibrant culture if it's not safe. And so, COVID has also taken this psychological toll, and people who are able to practice self-care, and it's not just, doing one thing, and it's not a one-time thing. Again, it's for the long game of how to practice that resiliency and those elements that you need to really focus on your health. And so, I would encompass it under all those.
Thank you for those insights. So now let's talk about the biggest potential for growth. What transferable skills do you feel are lacking in your new hires, and how can students develop these skills while in post-secondary education? So Andrew, would you like to start us off with this one?
Yeah, thanks so much, Holly. And it's something where there have been a multitude of great answers so far. So I'm definitely going to lean on the expertise of some of what's being shared already and build upon it, because when I look at skills that I think have a lot of opportunity for growth, I look at three words in particular. And I look at communication, which has been mentioned, preparation, and also presentation. I think they're all interlinked, and it's something where, again, when it comes to our organization, the Fraser Valley Bandits, we're often working with community partners, such as other organizations in the city and the surrounding municipalities. We have fans, season ticket holders, people on social media that we're corresponding with daily. We're also doing a lot of outreach via phone and electronically as well with email. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of succinct and concise information, but also incorporating information where the value of what your organization brings, if you're a new employee, is all built within that. And I think having strong communication skills, where, again, we've mentioned attaching a single PDF, attention to detail with spelling, concise language where emails aren't chunky paragraphs, they're actually just concise one-liners, but all the information is there. And there's an action item that's going to allow for a meeting to be called. I think it's all really important. And then when that meeting ultimately does come, whether it be with a stakeholder or a partner, that you're prepared to have a meeting where you're showing who you're working with, whether it be a boss or a new partner, or even a fan or a fellow employee, that you're giving them all your time and that you want to take that conversation forward in a way that's going to be progressive for everyone. And I look back at my own time as a student and I say, how could I have done a better job to be prepared for that in my own role currently with the Bandits as a professional basketball team? And I would just encourage all students, not, for example, to be passive during their university experience. I realized it took about 2 years of time, and I ended up doing 2 degrees, that I wasn't reaching out to my professors enough. I wasn't spending time outside of class to set meetings and ask them how I could do better. And I wasn't getting involved in enough extracurriculars. Your university is such a great resource where you have student leadership in politics and alumni associations. You have arts magazines and publications. You also have athletic bodies as well. All these are extremely viable entities within a university, and they're connected to external organizations that them and your teachers and professors can refer you to. And that's something that I didn't really do as much as I would have liked until my final 2 years of undergrad. but I think they're extremely viable and great ways to get real world learning experience. And people are looking for help. So don't be afraid to reach out, and you can work on those skills.
That's really helpful. Thanks, Andrew. Laura, would you like to go next?
Sure. This is a bit of a tough one because I don't like to start off by saying what's lacking in any new hire. But one of the things that I've noticed is kind of a make or break quality, and I believe it's a skill that can be developed, is the ability to problem solve and to use your own agency and skills without having to turn to a manager immediately as when you encounter some kind of an obstacle. So there's resiliency built in here too. So the ability to dig deep when it's time to dig deep, and my one sort of practical piece of advice that I have for everyone is that if you encounter a challenge or an obstacle in your work, in the project that you're working on and so forth, and I don't mean like I can't figure out, how to use this X, Y, and Z on my computer. Those aren't really obstacles so much as just practical skills. You can ask someone, of course. But bigger issues. I think it's really important as someone starting out in your career to think through the solutions or the potential solutions before you come to your manager with the problem. If you provide, I think it's a great way of showing that you are applying research skills, that you are tenacious, and that you want to solve the problem on your own, but maybe you don't feel that you have the agency yet to choose the right answer, but come with answers. So before you say, well, I can't do it because, I think it's really important to think about, well, what are the possible solutions here, and to bring those forward with the problem. Even if you haven't landed on the perfect solution, you've got the ball rolling, and you've definitely demonstrated to your employer that you're seeking solutions and not just saying, I can't do it, now over to you. Yeah.
Thank you. And Constable Boonstra, would you like to finish us off here?
You bet. Okay, so the way recruiting goes in Abbotsford for the Abbotsford Police Department is we start with a very large number of applicants, and we literally get down to 2 or 3 at the very, very top. So I'll talk about the very top in just a minute, but I feel like the transferable skills that are lacking in our new applicants. I'll talk about that one first because I feel like that's where we really need to hone in on our applicants. So things like having good insight about you as a person and knowing whether or not you're really, really ready for a job like this or not. So having good insight to have those conversations with yourself, thinking about putting yourself in dangerous situations. What does that look like for you? Is that something you could do? Could you take a gun and potentially kill somebody? That's something you have to ask yourself. And so there's many different types of conversations we have with our candidates. We mentor them, we coach them through, but there's definitely hard questions you have to really know about yourself personally to help us make that decision and to push you through the process. We also like to have applicants that really work hard, so have really good work ethic. So for example, McDonald's for us, when we have candidates that have worked at McDonald's, we love that because we know they're in a fast-paced working environment, they're able to multitask, and that's really what police officers do. So we look at the ability to work, and there's some thought about, trade work. Like we love carpenters, we love candidates have done the grunt work a little bit and come to the table with more than just one sort of line of work. So we love tradespeople as well because they have a different mentality with respect to how much work, the heavy lifting of the work, the actual work. And so we love that as well. So having the ability to have the insight, the work ethic behind it, and also life experience. We find that it's great when our applicants have a variety of life experience in their life, whether they're well-traveled and all of that. So again, all that comes back to insight. With respect to our new hires, is really the ability to keep wanting to learn and not believing that you're going to be a police officer tomorrow. It's just not how it works. It is a process. So understanding that you're not going to be perfect, and that's okay. You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. So again, insight into the people that we now hire, that we work with, that we mentor to get them where they need to be. Insight is imperative for them as well. And I do work with them on all of our new hires. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we all hold roles in our life that are non-paid and relational. For example, outside of work and studies, students can be parents, caregivers, activists, and community volunteers. Please share with us your perspective on transferring skills and experience between life and roles. Lori, would you like to start us off here?
Sure. So I was just mentioning that we all have transferable skills from our life experience. And that's one of the things that I find is really important that we look at in general from our life experience. How do we prioritize our workload? You talked about caregivers and, mothers and, whoever is in that category, all of those people with the life skills that you have. There are many tasks that you perform that you can transfer into the work scene. Do you take direction well, for example? Are you a quick learner? And that's one thing that Constable Boonstra mentioned too, which is something that we look at is, are you willing to learn? We at Archway really find that that's important because we look at not only what life experience you bring to the job, but what your potential is to do the work. And are you willing to tackle new challenges? Those are also very important, and embrace new ideas. That positive attitude that you have from your life experience goes far with working on the job. So how do you handle people with tact and diplomacy? And how do you negotiate effectively? I think it was Mike or Andrew who had mentioned that as well. In terms of your communication skills, your negotiation skills are also equally important. And how can you remain calm in heated situations that you would have experienced within your life that you have had? And getting along well with others is very, very important, along with being reliable and dependable. And as a final note for this that I wanted to say is, I think it's important for you to recognize your strengths and your weaknesses. And what have you learned from those weaknesses that you've had throughout your life experiences, and what can you improve on? Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. I'm taking over for Holly until she fixes her sound. So how about you, Andrew?
Yeah, Lori, thanks for sharing that perspective. I agree on a number of points, and it's something where when we look at transferable skills and potential candidates applying to our organization, we really like to look how, again, people have invested in themselves in a way that's going to be representative of a greater portrait of what I would call work-life balance. Obviously, it's something that's really topical, but we really want to see, are you a visible member of your community, and you have taken the time to invest in yourself and also in others. So it's something where when it comes on the health and wellness side, is it something where you're exercising, you're a member of the community, whether it be you're playing recreational sport, or maybe you're involved in leadership, coaching youth. It's something where there's healthy active living involved. And with that being said as well, intellectually, are you doing things outside of work where you're contributing to your overall sense of current affairs and what's happening in the world as well? What extracurricular would be exemplary of the fact that you do have that mindfulness of both what else is happening in the community beyond your immediate world and grasp, because we see time and time again that some of our best ideas as an organization come from people who are drawing inspiration from others, because there's so much great work that's being done. And then with that being said as well, are you volunteering? There's a lot of organizations that could use an extra helping hand, and volunteerism is something that, again, shows that you're involved. You recognize that there's always an opportunity to be a stakeholder, and we want to make sure that people are coming to us who basically are aware of the fact that volunteering does a lot to contribute to the betterment of others. So those are some really big skills that form a portrait of work-life balance, where you're finding time outside of your regular job, your regular studies, to create a better version of yourself as well.
Mm-hmm. We're beginning to see a theme where, these employers like to hire people as whole human beings. Thank you so much, Andrew. What about you, Michael?
Yeah, really interesting work-life balance. I'm a parent of twins who are 10 years old. And so that work-life balance is oftentimes very challenging. In fact, one of the skills I think we learn from being a parent, there are many skills. One that I have on my list here is dispute resolution. Between my twins, maybe I should be applying for the police officer role there. But also think about time management, think about advocacy, think about how we communicate, leadership. You learn leadership being a parent, of course, lived experiences of not just being a parent, but being an activist for your kids or for other organizations, or working in other non-work related or unpaid environments. Lived experience to me connects to things like diversity and difference, which of course leads to skills of understanding and empathy, leads to skills to be able to to communicate, to be flexible and adaptable. And so I think all of these these non-paid roles that we do are probably some of the most challenging roles that we do. I remember when my twins were born, being I was a professor at the time, of course, and that was my vacation, going to work, right? Being a parent is really reflects this lifelong process of discovery and lifelong learning, which I think is one thing that sociology teaches, I think, and social sciences teach is, teaches you how to learn and teaches you that, what you are learning is not static, it's always on the move. And yes, you need to be a lifelong learner, and which is, I think, a skill, which connects to a Constable Boonstra's comment there about being able to learn and take feedback and understand that, what we are doing in this world is a process of discovery, I think.
Okay, I'm back. So our next question is, what are things post-secondary institutions can do in the curriculum and outside of classes to help students develop transferable skills? Constable Boonstra, would you like to start us off with this one?
You betcha. So something that I do with my candidates and people that I'm either interested in the job. So for example, candidates that are currently going to UFV that reach out to me and want to get into policing and are looking for ways to apply and what that looks like. So what I always encourage them to do is to make themselves a roadmap. I'm the big proponent of that because it tells them where they currently are and what they want, what their end goal is. And then, of course, for me, it shows me that they've taken the time from A to B, have gone A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and have gotten to here. And it makes sense to me, a roadmap of success. And so how the post-secondary, so how UFE or any other institution can help with that is explain what the roadmap is, have the individual sit down and say, okay, this is my end goal. This is where I am now. What skills am I needing? What skills do police officers have that I need to build on? And how will I be able to get those skills doing volunteering in the community, whether it be work? We always say for people that come right out of UFE and want to get into policing, pick a job that sort of is law enforcement like, if you can, or in a management position, even in a corporation or whatever. So for example, we like to see loss prevention officers. We like to see sheriffs. We like to see corrections officers. So if someone is brand new, say graduated, and they want to become a police officer, it may not happen like that. There is a roadmap that happens. So sitting down with a student and helping them roadmap out their transferable skills into success is critical. And that's something that we do as well. And so engaging in conversations with the students, and students, if you're out there too, making sure that you think about what a roadmap looks like. If you want that job, that career, at the end of the day, you can have all the jobs, but you want that career. What does that look like? How do I get there? And then as a recruiter or as somebody else who works for these organizations, does it make sense to me that they're now sitting in front of me? Does this make sense as far as them applying with us and wanting a job with us? Thank you.
Thank you. Lori, would you like to go next?
Yes, certainly. So one of the things that I was looking at were things that post-secondary institutions could do would be to include more activities within the curriculum, which would involve more team participation, more teamwork, so that students are developing those skills that you need to get along with others, you need to know how to manage people, and I think that's really important as well. And that will include as well things like time management and organizational skills. Those could be built into as well into a curriculum so that students are learning those kinds of activities and those kinds of transferable skills. If at all possible, and I think I'm putting a plug in here for Archway because I know that we do bring on a lot of practicum students into Archway, but if you could add more practicums as part of your program, make it a mandatory requirement for all degree, diploma, and certification programs that they do need to complete a practicum. I think that would be really helpful to have for people because they're going to be getting then on-the-job experience, which they will then be able to apply and learn more about these transferable skills. We have hired a lot of practicum students who have worked here at Archway who have then been able to go into a paid position here at Archway. And then on a final note, one of the things I had gone onto the UFE website and I had noticed, because Candy was mentioning it, and I had said, yes, Candy, I saw it on your website, was Career Month. And your November Career Month is is fantastic. And I looked at all of the events that you are running, the webinars, the career panels, all kinds of information. And I thought, oh my goodness, it must be hard for, as Candy said, faculty, staff, and students alike to be participating in everything. So one of my suggestions, and one of the things you are doing today, which is recording this event, which is great, but one of the things I had thought is repeat some of those webinars and some of those panels throughout the other months so that students can continue to participate, because they're great. They look like they were just wonderful sessions and will meet the needs to help students further develop. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Mike, would you like to go next?
Yeah, Laura, you kind of stole a little bit of my thunder there, but that's okay. I mean, yeah, I think some of the solutions is right here on this in this group. I mean, we have Elise, we have Lori here. I've had the pleasure, the utmost pleasure of supervising students on their work studies, which I just think is such a wonderful opportunity for students to be able to put knowledge into practice, to gain lived experience, work-related experience. So I think definitely that is something that we need to consider moving forward in, cooperative education, work study, experiential learning opportunities. This connects to sort of my role, and when I design a course, when I design content, making sure that the content that I develop is timely and relevant, right? Of course, think about the importance of understanding contemporary social issues, right? That's when we need to develop content that's timely and relevant. Meaningful assignments that are geared towards experiential learning and critical reflection. I think UFV's mandate, geared towards equity, diversity, and inclusion is extremely important. The word resilience was mentioned many, many times today. And we tend to think about resiliency as an individual trait or something that resides in the individual. Some of the things that I teach in my classes is how resiliency is actually social through and through. It's kind of connected to our contexts. And so really creating, these principles of equity, diversity, and inclusion, creating a healthier and safer and more equitable society is actually a way that we can foster resilience contextually within our social contexts, which to me is where the biggest sort of bang for our buck is in terms of creating resilient individuals and resilient environments. And so I think, UFV's mandate combined with, our desire, at least my desire as a prof, and I know a lot of my colleagues as well, to make content meaningful and relevant and give students experiential learning opportunities that really allow skills to be transferred into practice. That's sort of where I'm at and where I really enjoy trying to build off in that area, because it is a process of discovery, as I've mentioned earlier.
That's great. Thank you so much. So the concluding question here is, what general advice do you have for students to remain informed of transferable skills that are in demand in their fields and show that they can demonstrate these fields? Hannah, would you like to start us off with this one?
Yeah, in short, I would just say really take what Laura said about the agency is take ownership and not be passive and just say, I'm a student, so it's going to be shown to me. But as you're learning and as you're going through all these experiences, reflecting on it, I think these looking for disconfirming information, being aware of your biases, why things are reacting to you, and then using that feedback that you get through your assessments of, and even your emotions, you're flustered, you're not sure, you're disappointed, or how does that all relate back to who you are? And, I would really highly suggest as a practice as well, something that I've learned even in my business program, school program, we spent a whole semester just on reflecting and journaling. And I thought, wow, this is, it was a new practice for me, but there's emerging research and growing practice about the positive correlation on journaling and leadership effectiveness, and the importance of having a learning about yourself through that way. So yeah, I would just say it's a daily practice, and keep going at it.
Thank you. Laura, would you like to add to that?
Sure, yeah. I'm not 100% going to answer the question that you asked, but I want to say something that I recognize now in my career. And that is that, one, careers do not happen overnight. So two, never underestimate the importance of jobs. And I think we've all been saying this all along, this idea that you have to think about what you're learning in every job you do. as something that can be applied to a career, to, you know, something more aspirational perhaps for you. And I would say, just based on my own experience, I spent 14 years putting myself through school and learning in the hospitality industry. So I used to run bars in downtown Toronto, not maybe what you'd expect as a natural career path for a museum director, but it was necessary, you know, in order to be able to afford an education for me. The things that I learned in those roles were absolutely essential to my ability to succeed today in my leadership role in something that's obviously far more academic and quite divorced in many ways from, you know, slinging beer. But the relational aspects of customer service jobs that I'm sure many students have are invaluable. They really touch on a lot of the things that we've talked about already today. So conflict resolution, you know, the customer's always right, except when they're not. So how do you manage that? Negotiation skills, good communication skills, problem solving skills. And I think all of these are ultimately about relationship building. And that is absolutely essential. Our ability to relate to the people around us is essential to success in any career. So think carefully in your jobs, even if they feel like a bit of a grind or maybe they're not very meaningful, think about what the takeaways are for you in every job that you do. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Holly and Laura and Hannah. There's a lot that resonated from what you both just shared. And one in particular is the fact that, as you said, a career doesn't happen overnight. And I think especially as a student, you need to look at each job as a stepping stone where you can extract different skills. And it's something where, especially as a student, you look at a career that might take 10 to 15 years to get to the point that you aspire towards. And you may be a student at the time, and perhaps you have an entry level or part-time position, but understanding how meaningful that can be at the time, and also how you can also pursue leadership positions while you're still a student. And a few things that I'll run through are just at an entry level point as a student, you're constantly doing group projects, and maybe the type of person who likes to assist in a group project and maybe not adopt a leadership position as the person who's going to be leading the presentation or being responsible for a larger task. I would definitely encourage students to take on those opportunities and pursue those leadership roles within the academic environment. But at the same time, especially during the pandemic, with people working more so autonomously or from home, there's such great opportunities for networking out there. Interviews shouldn't be confined to the job application process. You can ask for informational interviews. Think of who your idols in local workforces are. People have such great and enriched perspectives to share. There's tons of people in executive and leadership positions where you can reach out, send them a cold email, make a cold call, ask to buy them a cup of coffee and say, I'd love to learn about yourself. You're not asking for a job, but you're hoping to build a relationship. And that's just a great way of utilizing extra time that you might have on hand, potentially while you're a student and looking to get your name out there. I'd also encourage students to be stakeholders and take an interest in companies as well. Most companies in the digital age, of course, have newsletters. And I can't tell you enough some of the value added information and sometimes insider information that companies like to sneak into their newsletters, where there's jobs that might not be posted online or otherwise. So subscribe to companies that you really admire. Try and see what other information they're sharing behind the scenes, and e-newsletters are a great way to do that. And then in terms of demonstrating that and showing that you have those skills, what I'll end off with here is obviously cover letters and CVs and resumes are tried and true methods of application. But regardless of what industry you're in, whether it be the arts or something corporate, create a work portfolio, create something where you have a website or you have a one-pager with hyperlinks to your previous work, whether it's a PowerPoint presentation or a publicly viewable document or something that's on Vimeo or YouTube, whatever it might be. Maybe it's an Excel chart or something you built on Canva. It could be anything, and I'm digressing, but have a work portfolio that you're attaching with your cover letter and your CV, because maybe your cover letter is not that strong, but you know what? Your work portfolio is fantastic, and it shows actual tangible work that you've done and that you're proud of. So add that to your applications, add it to your cold outreach informational interview requests, and see where it goes.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and thank you so much to all of the panelists for your insights. As a student who's graduating in a couple of months, I have found this session really valuable. So now I'm going to hand it back to Candy.
Wow. Thank you so much to all of the panelists. I was trying to monitor the chat for any questions. There are no questions because I believe that your brilliance and your insights have addressed many of people's points and questions. So I'll just conclude with two pieces of things just from hearing all of your thoughts and ideas. And I've learned a lot that I'm going to talk with students about this right away. In our courses, in our portfolio capstone courses, we define career as a constellation of life roles. And like Michael, I have a toddler too. So I've been playing with the light bright with him. And I often think the top row is what students think. You know, the pink is they're going to school, they find themselves a job, when what you're really trying to get students to do is to go to school, but on parallel, take part in activities. We talked about work integrated learning programs, volunteering for services and community. And then those are the skills and experiences that are going to build, find you a fulfilling work and career. And I think it goes back to what Constable Boonstra was saying, make yourself a roadmap and how that's all going to happen for you. So what does your constellation look like? And what are some of the experiences that you already have that you're still hoping to accumulate, and how will you overall tell your story? So thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon and keep thinking about those transferable skills.